To learn more about earning college credits with Study Hall courses, visit gostudyhall.com or click the link in the description. Do you ever feel like everything is just kind of random? Like there's nothing guiding us and we're just aimlessly walking around and doing things kind of by accident? I mean, if that meant I could, say, become the world's best musician by accident, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. But unfortunately, that's not really how it works. Even in our seemingly most random and pointless moments, there's usually something driving what we're doing. We all have motivation. It can be really hard to identify our reasons for doing something. There may even be lots of reasons depending on our culture, our family, our generation, and where we live. But across all those different factors, psychologists have identified some similarities and patterns that help us understand why we are the way we are and why other people are the way they are. And understanding our motivations can help us make better decisions, connect and work with others, and pursue our goals more effectively. That way, I can become the world's best musician on purpose, not by accident. Hi, I'm Deja Fitzgerald, and this is Study Hall, Intro to Psychology. Whether we're aware of it or not, there's usually a why behind the things we do. From the instant gratification of eating ice cream straight out of the container, to persevering over years to achieve life goals. Everything we do starts with motivation, which is anything that energizes and gives purpose or direction to what we're doing, either consciously or unconsciously. That sounds pretty broad, but motivation can be broken up into 4 components. The first is activation, or the decision to pursue a goal. Say you decide you want to run a marathon so you can get a shiny medal and some free Gatorade. I guess that's a good enough reason. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing. You've activated your goal of running a marathon. If you register for a marathon and then buy some fancy schmancy new running shoes online, congrats. Now you have direction for your goal, although you still need to train for it. That's where persistence comes in, which is the continued work we put in to get to the goal and overcome obstacles. Every week, rain or shine, you're going to need to train and build endurance and strength as you go. Finally, there's intensity, or the level of effort we put towards achieving our goal. Like maybe you run frequently, but you usually end up stopping part way to chat with someone or pet a cute dog. Activation, direction, persistence, and intensity are the parts of motivation. But as for where we get them, there's some debate. Psychologists haven't reached an agreement on where motivation comes from, which leaves a lot to explore. But a good place to start is to understand some basic human needs. Abraham Maslow was a 20th century American psychologist whose hierarchy of needs is a foundational theory that's often represented with a pyramid. This theory allows us to think about the organization of our motivations in a clear way. It works like this. At the base of the pyramid are physiological needs, or the basics we need to survive, like food, water, and sleep. Above that, we have our safety needs, like housing and personal security. Then we have needs related to love and belonging, which involve our sense of community and our relationships. Getting closer to the top, there are our esteem needs, which relate to the desire for a sense of self and respect from others. And at the very top is self-actualization, which is our need for a sense of purpose or self-fulfillment. Maslow recognized that our needs have different levels of importance, but they are also related and may be met in different ways. His views were influenced by his time spent on the Blackfoot Nation early in his career. Like, if we're hungry, we're probably going to be driven by the need for food before we can worry about how much respect we have in our community. But the Blackfoot Nation put primary importance on needs that are met relationally and communally. And in their view, food is most often a communal experience with an emphasis on a relationship with the natural world. This primary physiological need cannot be met without the involvement and support of others. The hierarchy of needs isn't perfect, but it highlights that we have different types of motivations, and it has been used as a foundation for exploring motivation and where it comes from ever since it was published in 1943. However, there is some disagreement in the field about motivation as it relates to social and psychological needs, or the top sections of the pyramid. There are several influential theories. One theory splits motivation into two categories. First, extrinsic motivation is a desire to complete an activity based on external influences, like punishments, rewards, or achievement. So, a student studying for a test to get a good grade is driven by extrinsic motivation. On the other hand, intrinsic motivation is doing an activity for the pleasure of the activity itself rather than factors outside ourselves. So, if a big Octavia Butler stan was taking a literature class and got to the section on Afrofuturism, she'd probably be intrinsically motivated to read this section and prepare for the test. Not because she wants a good grade, but because she loves the ideas of Earthseed. But dividing motivation into extrinsic and intrinsic categories is just one way to think about where motivation comes from. Coined by Victor Vroom in 1964, he was a professor, not a villain from the Cars movies. Expectancy theory argues that our motivations come from how much we want something and how much we think our actions will make this a reality. This theory has three parts. The first is expectancy, or how much we expect effort affects our performance on something. Then there's instrumentality, which is how much we believe that performance will get us some outcome or reward. And finally, valence is how much we value that reward. So basically, expectancy theory says that you're more likely to study for a test if 1. You believe that studying will make you better at answering test questions. 2. You believe that being good at answering test questions will result in a higher grade. And 3. If a higher grade gives you a reward you value. Expectancy theory is helpful for figuring out where our motivation is really coming from when there's some kind of payoff, especially in situations where people might value a reward differently. It also primes us to examine what types of rewards we value, which might be different from what others value. Achievement motivation is the last theory we'll talk about today. It basically says motivation comes from our want to have a sense of accomplishment, mastery, or control. It turns out we don't all value achievement the same, and that can influence our choices in somewhat unexpected ways. For example, imagine you're at a carnival, trying your luck at one of those ring toss games. There are 3 difficulty levels. The green bottles closest to you, so close you can almost reach out and touch them. Behind them is a row of yellow bottles. Okay, getting a bit tricky now. And then behind that row, smack dab in the middle of the booth, is a small row of tiny red bottles. Each color corresponds to a different prize. The green bottles would give you a tiny plastic dinosaur. The yellow ones have a sweet-looking Charmander plushie, but the red ones, my oh my, they win you this behemoth gorilla stuffed animal almost bigger than you. But you only have enough money left for 5 rings to throw, and your crush is watching you too, so there's some, pressure. If you have high achievement motivation, you would probably aim for the yellow bottles. Something challenging, but still possible, because you want to be pretty sure you'll get that achievement satisfaction. And the Charmander plushie. If you have low achievement motivation, you would toss for the green bottles because they're within reach, and you want the pleasure of achieving this easier goal, plus dinosaurs are cool enough. But why would you aim for the red bottles? You might guess it would also have to do with high achievement motivation, but actually, you might go for it if you have low achievement motivation. When you inevitably miss the bottles, you can chalk up your failure to the impossibility of the challenge, not your skill level. You weren't expecting achievement satisfaction, so it probably doesn't bother you much if you don't get it. Few of us are playing ring toss at a carnival every day, but we can still think about how much we value achievement and how that influences our decisions in other situations. Knowing what we value and what's driving us can help us understand our goals and how to direct our efforts. So now we need some goals, and I'm not just talking about trying to be first in line for the sweet potato pie at Thanksgiving. A goal is the thing we're working toward, the reason for doing what we're doing, the finish line at the end of a marathon. Once a person has activated their motivation, they start working towards their goal. This is goal orientation, when we start to direct physical and mental energy towards a goal. And when we're going after a goal, how we think about that goal can have a real impact on what we end up getting. As we've seen before, psychologists like to create different categories to tackle big concepts. And psychologist Carol Dweck proposed 2 kinds of goals. Learning goals are about mastering a skill or knowledge and avoiding doing something worse than you have before. So, if you took up karate just for the joy of learning a new skill, then you have a mastery goal. You're interested in the steps along the path to mastery of karate. On the other hand, performance goals are about demonstrating an ability to get someone's approval or avoid their judgment. So if you take up karate so you can destroy your bullies and win a tournament against your crush's ex-boyfriend, well, then you have a performance goal. Each of these goals has their advantages and disadvantages. In one study, participants were asked to solve a problem, then given a memory test related to the problem. One group had the performance goal of doing well on the test compared to others in the study. Another group had the learning goal of improving their cognitive abilities by solving the problem. Right away, the participants with the performance goal had better test results. But when the participants were tested again 1 week later, the participants with the learning goal scored higher. So, depending on your short or long-term goals, both of these have their perks. But in the long run, learning goals win out. It's amazing that the kind of motivation and goals you have has an impact on your performance. Having the aim of developing a skill drives our behavior in a way that's different from demonstrating a skill. Different kind of goal, different kind of outcome. Similar to what we saw with motivation, different kind of motivation, different kind of process for achieving your goal. When we look at our motivations, we can see how varied and complex they are, ranging from biological to social. We can also see basic patterns that apply across a variety of people and circumstances. The perspective we gain from theories about motivation can empower us to better relate to why we do what we do. It can also show why other people do things the way they do, and it can open up opportunities to change how we do what we do. Want to do great work on a research project? It might help to focus on the learning you're doing through that project instead of just the grade you hope to achieve. We can go after the same goals we set out for ourselves, but do it in ways that better resonate with who we are and what we care about. And knowing that we can improve our relationship with our goals, motivation, and behavior, that's pretty well motivating. If you're enjoying Study Hall, Intro to Psychology, and are interested in taking an online course and earning college credit, visit gostudyhall.com or click on this button to learn more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.